All right, the NFL season is officially over. The Los Angeles Rams defeat the Bengals last night in the Super Bowl, 23-20, in I think a fantastic game, actually, to say the least. But we are not informed more. We talk Jags football and other news around the NFL. I'm Tyler, and this is my co-host Brandon. How you doing today, man?
Doing pretty good. Like you said, it was a really good Super Bowl, and the weather to me is nice. I like it cold. Hopefully, it just stays cold and doesn't do the
Oh
hot,
yeah,
cold every other day switch thing.
oh yeah, absolutely. It's been like 80 degrees and 40, then 80 again. It's how people get sick here in Florida.
Yep, exactly.
But let's go ahead and start things off with the Rams. Matthew Stafford threw 283, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. Really, that one interception was definitely his fault, where I think it was Jesse Bates that picked him off in the end zone.
Yep.
But the other one was his wide receiver. I think it's like what Ben
Like,
Skornick, number 18. I think that's who it was.
yeah, I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Yeah, it was like a little
Yeah, Skornick.
slot route, and he ended up getting ball deflected right into defender's hand for the Bengals, the easy interception. So I don't really
Right.
put blame on Matthew Stafford for that. But overall, Matthew Stafford, I thought beginning of the game definitely sort of struggled. Besides that, Odell Beckham touchdown, but definitely in the fourth quarter, I think him and Cup had that great connection though.
Yeah, it was weird how I don't know if the Bengals were just scheming to cover Cup or what the deal was. But you would think if they were doing that and it was working beforehand, why didn't they just keep doing that to the end of the game? So that's where it's like confusing of like, did the Rams choose to not target Cup during like the whole like third quarter pretty much? I feel like we didn't hear Cup at all until that fourth down play where they decided to like do him in the motion in the backfield to get the ball for the first down. And honestly, that was the right play call on their part on that one. Cause like I was screaming, I was like, why don't we just do Debo Samuel? Because Akers and Henderson haven't been doing anything all day. And it was just like, give it to your guy who is, in my opinion, I thought he was the MVP of the league, not just like the Super Bowl MVP. You could make an argument that he was the MVP for the whole league. And they weren't giving him the ball. And I was like, this is how they're going to lose the game. And a couple of things went the Bengals' way. It was looking bad. And then finally the Rams were like, okay, we're gonna fix what we're doing on defense, and we're gonna give Cooper Kupp the ball no matter what. Doesn't matter what covers you're throwing, and that's what got in the game, man. And that's what they should have been doing the whole game.
Yeah, absolutely. Cooper Kupp wins the Super Bowl MVP. Great year for him. I mean, from start to finish, great way to end an amazing
One
season.
of the best wide receiving like seasons of all time for a wide receiver. Like he won pretty much every single category you could think of, and historically will go down as one of the best like receiving years of all time.
Absolutely. I mean, he keeps us up for another 5, 6 years. I think. I mean, maybe even 3. You might be talking about Hall of Fame, just the way he's been producing the past few years, and then on top of this year, unbelievable for him. Congratulations to him. Odell Beckham started the game off strong, 2 catches, 52 yards and a touchdown, but unfortunately did tear ACL, the same ACL he tore last year. And when we were talking about it earlier today, that's I think he can maybe come back, but like around maybe October, November time. But you think he possibly could take the whole year off, possibly?
I think he could take the whole year off. Maybe tearing your ACL back to back. I don't even think it was a full year in between his full like recovery time.
Yeah.
It might have been just barely over a year. It wasn't that much. So the fact that it's the same knee, that second one's probably not going to recover the same way the first one did. But I could see him possibly just being like, hey, like week 15 or so, just because he'll be a free agent. He can sign wherever he wants to. He can sign whenever he wants to. It's not like you don't have to worry about trade deadline, anything like that. And he can just kind of pick the team he wants to go to. Maybe one team is looking like another Super Bowl favorite before the playoffs. And he's like, hey, let me just hop on their team, get on practice, get the playbook knowledge about a few weeks before the playoffs start. And then that team all of a sudden now has Odell Beckham also on their roster. And that can just, I mean, you saw what he did with the Rams. Imagine if Odell didn't sign with the Rams this year. They honestly probably weren't going to be in this position. He played phenomenal for them down the stretch.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
he could bring that to whatever team. It could possibly come back for the Rams. We talked about how the NFC is completely like, it's going to be 3 teams. And if Rodgers leaves, it may only be 2 teams. It may just be the 49ers and the Rams. Outside of that, Eagles and Cowboys, I don't really think anybody is. They're going to make the playoffs, obviously, but I
Probably
don't
one
think
and done at
anybody
that
sees
point.
them as the Rams. Like Rams are the clear favorites pretty much now for the NFC, but you never know. You got the whole rumor of Darnold possibly retiring, and then I heard some talk about Sean McVay. could possibly leave, do a broadcast role for a couple of years because he wants to like raise a kid. Only 34 years old. Usually you don't have these coaches have this kind of success that young. And there's talks that apparently he was talking about he wants this, I think he has a girlfriend. I don't know if I think they're serious because I think he's talking about having kids and settling down, and being an NFL coach takes all your time and energy. And being at 34 years old, he wants to probably just get a broadcasting job, make a couple million doing that. He would be a killer broadcaster with his knowledge and just his presence and the way he does things. So he could easily just do a broadcasting job out of LA and raise his kids for a couple of years and then go back into coaching if he wanted to. And be one of the top candidates. Like there's stuff like that floating around.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens, but going back to Odell, I could see it being that kind of scenario where he just jumps on whatever team is doing well, and it could be the Rams.
Yeah, Odell did last 6-7 games. I mean, it might have been some of the best football I've seen Odell play since he came into the league. I mean, he was phenomenal. Yeah. He was looking like that true number one guy, even though they have, Kupp on the team, but he was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Speaking of Odell and Kupp, when actually Odell got hurt, so that fourth down route in the end zone that Kupp got the touchdown, the last touchdown, that was originally supposed to be Odell Beckham's route, but they went ahead and put Cooper Kupp in that role because Cooper Kupp knows the routes for every single one of the players on the team. That's insane that he knows everyone's routes. So they went ahead and trusted him, which why not? I mean, he's your best offensive player. So
there was no other place that ball was going. If they threw it to anybody else, that would have been a mistake.
He could have been triple coverage and I still would have threw it to him.
Yep, exactly.
And when it comes to ball and crunch time like that, you give it to your best, try to give it to your best player no matter what, just how it is. And then you just talk about Aaron Donald retiring. I don't think he's going to retire this year. I don't think McVay, but next year, with Stafford potentially, I think, what does he have, 2 years left or one more year left on the
I don't remember his contract, but yeah, it's not very long.
I do think that eventually I have to blow everything up. And if they do, I can see Aaron Donald maybe not this year, retiring right now, but maybe playing one more year retiring. That'll make it 9 years. It's just so weird, thinking he would retire right now. He's just playing on a whole nother level. And when I was driving home from work, I was listening to, the Jags radio, 1010XL, and they were actually talking about, is Aaron Donald the best defensive player of all time? I mean, Lawrence Taylor arguably is the best defensive player of all time, and there's really no one you can argue or, compare to. But Aaron Donald might be someone that you can actually argue about. I mean, he's been in the Pro Bowl, I think, every year, 7-time All-Pro, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, and Rookie of the Year. I mean, what else does he really need to prove? I mean, he's first ballot Hall of Famer regardless if he retires right now.
Yeah, even if he didn't win the Super Bowl, he was a first ballot Hall of Famer. But this is kind of just puts that icing on the cake for him too. I think he also I think he has the most sacks ever by a defensive tackle.
Yeah, he has 98. He's 2 away from 100, which 100 sacks for defensive tackle is insane.
It is insane, and I think he led the league in sacks.
I think two or three. I think
just that alone is just, and he can come off the edge too. He's not necessarily just he can only play on the inside. There was a couple of times, I think even this postseason, where they line him up on the edge to come off on, I don't know what game that was, but they were doing that. And he's such a physical, just specimen. You see his workouts, how he can be that big, that strong, but yet be that fast. And just he, in my opinion, would very good argument, especially if he plays for a couple more years, not just, retires this year, as one of the greatest defensive players of all time. His resume speaks for itself, that it's on that level.
No, absolutely. But speaking of Super Bowl overall for the Rams defense, they were inconsistent. I thought at times they looked really good, but that fourth quarter, they definitely stepped up, especially that defensive line. Aaron Donald ended up having 2 sacks. Von Miller had 2 sacks. Von Miller actually had a very good game. I don't think no one talks about him enough for the Rams, just because they're Jalen Ramsey on the team. They have Leonard Floyd. You have Aaron Donald. Von Miller, I think, was actually a phenomenal pickup for the Rams this year in the trade. I mean, they went all in. Congratulations. I think Von Miller, this is his second Super Bowl because he won with the Broncos a few years ago. But
he won the Peyton Manning year.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. That's right. But yeah, overall defense line for the Rams definitely came in effect in the fourth quarter and definitely caused havoc for Joe Burrow and the Bengals. And speaking of the Bengals, Joe Burrow, 263, a touchdown, not terrible. He definitely, I felt started the game off pretty well. And then that third quarter was the first pass, second half, T. Higgins touchdown, which should have never been a touchdown. He did rip Jalen Ramsey's face mask pretty hard. But overall, Joe Mixon, great game. Chase, Higgins, boy, they all did their thing. But Defensively, I thought the Bengals actually played very well going against the Rams offense, and defensive line, like we talked about earlier today, before the video, is that they're a top 10 unit. I mean, that might be the strength of their team. I mean, they held Cam Akers at 23 yards, and I mean, they really put the Bengals in position to win this game.
Yeah, their defensive line was easily one of the best in the league, actually. It was one of the most underrated teams. When you think of the Bengals, you didn't think of the defensive line, but especially like in the rushing defense category, they were like one of the top 5 teams. I think they may have been like 6th or 7th, but they were right up there. You saw what they did against Derrick Henry. I get Derrick Henry wasn't fully healthy or anything like that, but still to be able to hold him basically nothing is a phenomenal feat. And then they were really good this game. They were getting to Matthew Stafford. There was no running game whatsoever for the Rams. They basically said, we're just not going to be allowed to run the ball. I think Cam Akers had one rush that went to the outside for like 5 or 6 yards, and that was like the longest carry of the game for the Rams. It was just their secondary really put them down, which I think we kind of knew. Their secondary, actually, for the names of the guys with Awuzie and Apple, 2 vets that really haven't done great in their career, had their career years this year, and they actually weren't that bad. Apple, I know, has gotten a lot of crap.
He's getting roasted. He should go ahead and deactivate whatever he has.
I don't remember what I missed the whole Eli Apple, like, was he talking crap about like wide receiver? Because like every single wide receiver has basically like trashed Eli Apple.
He called out he basically called out the Rams like wide receivers, and he wanted Odell one-on-one every single play.
Okay, well, he got work this game. He didn't really have that great of a game, so he should probably rethink that.
And obviously, he was trashing the Giants, not the organization, but the city and the fans, and same thing with the Saints, the city, and all that. So people took that kind of, I can understand when he trashed like a organization. That's fine. That doesn't really bother me too much. It's more so you're just gonna throw shade at the fans and like the city that like took you in, sort of.
Yeah, even just fans in general. Like I'm also an Eagles fan, but definitely when like Jason Kelsey was like trashing the city of Jacksonville as if like the fans don't even care, and it's like Jaguar fan base, like
we're ruthless, man.
Passionate fan bases, I feel like, in the NFL. Like I know a lot of teams were homers and we say that, but like I feel like a lot of like I think people just look down on Jacksonville because it actually is a major city, but people don't think it's really a major city. Just because like the whole downtown situation and everything like that, and not really like having a winning football program in the last like 12 years and more. But the fact is that the fans are still here. Fans still show up, and if they put a winning product on the field, man, they're going to be like, oh no, Jacksonville's actually like a legit organization and stuff like that. So we'll get there. But yeah, definitely calling out like fans of teams isn't necessarily like, especially as a player, I feel like you're just opening yourself up to get absolutely destroyed by like everyone.
No, yeah, absolutely, 100%. A player on their defense for the Bengals, Logan Wilson. I mean, he had 8 solo tackles. I mean, he had a phenomenal game. Fortunately, he got called for that, holding call against Cooper Kupp, which is debatable. It probably shouldn't have been a holding call, but you win some, you lose some when it comes to refs. You're not always call the right play. But I mean, this dude, no one talks about him enough, but he had a chance to, if the Bengals would have won, he could have possibly won Super Bowl MVP. I don't think they would have gave it to him, but there's talk that he could have won it.
It would have been in the running. I mean, Higgins with 100 catches and two touchdowns, Joe Mixon with that throwing touchdown and 72 rushing yards. Burrow, I mean, is a quarterback. I mean, he didn't have a necessarily amazing game, but it's pretty hard not to typically give it to the quarterback. Unless like the situation with the Rams of Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald were probably the only 2 real options for MVP. Maybe if Stafford didn't throw that interception in the end zone or, kind of thing, maybe it could have been switched a little bit more, but yeah, excuse me. Logan Wilson though, probably would have been, he's going to be one of the better middle linebackers in this league. I think this is only is this his 3rd year? I think he's still on his rookie deal. I'm pretty sure. I think at longest he was like 2019 draft class. Yeah.
He's only been in the league for 2 years.
Yeah. And he's already doing this stuff. He's one of the names to watch out for he's going to start making Pro Bowls and everything like that. And he's going to be a really solid piece for their defense moving forward.
No, absolutely. But overall, I mean, I thought it was a pretty exciting Super Bowl for the most part. I thought, second quarter really took off, but really that fourth quarter was what made the Super Bowl great. 23-20, once again, a close game, a field goal game. I mean, it seems like that's happened all postseason for pretty much every game except for maybe one or two games. But what a great way to end the season. Just a, a close game, a game that's, I think a lot of fans were expecting the Rams to win, but we're picking the Bengals, like we're rooting for the Bengals.
Yeah.
That's me. I was rooting for the Bengals, but I sort of did have a feeling the Rams might win the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody kind of had that feeling. I feel like there really weren't like a ton of people thinking the Bengals were seriously, unless you're a Cincinnati fan, there wasn't really that many people, I feel like, that seriously thought the Bengals were going to win this game.
No, yeah, absolutely. But hey, give it up to the Bengals. I mean, they from last place to being in the Super Bowl, that's a huge accomplishment, even though you lost. I mean, now you got the experience with such a young team and like a young head coach. I feel like it's only going to get brighter and better from here. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I mean, yeah, you can talk about the 2017 Jags. They almost won the Super Bowl, and then the following year, they were absolute garbage once again. But I think there's just too much star power on the Bengals offense and some of it on defense as well as some key players on defense that's going to happen. I think at minimum next year, this is a 9-win team for the Bengals.
Yeah, this is definitely. They could possibly win the North, AFC. Like I could totally. The Browns just are being the Browns. Baker Mayfield isn't better. The Ravens, I don't really. I mean, the Ravens are always going to be there, but just they haven't been. They didn't. They started like falling off. Steelers are going to be in kind of a rebuild mode, so it's kind of like I would have to bet that the Bengals are the favorites to win the AFC North this coming year. And they should be, especially with their cap space situation. They have like 50 some odd $1 million, and they really only need to bring back, I believe, Bates. I think someone on the defensive line. I think it's BJ Hill. Yeah, BJ Hill, yeah, who he did really well. And I think Awuzie is also a free agent. So they'll easily be able to bring all those people back. They're going to cut some people on their offensive line. That is obviously going to save them some money. And they're going to just probably get a couple of big names to fill out that offensive line. Like I wouldn't like Brandon, was it Sheriff?
Yeah, from Washington.
Washington would make sense. Morgan Moses, right tackle, made sense. Trent Brown, I think it was with the Patriots, but if you put Trent Brown in there on the right tackle or left tackle for the Bengals, and then there's a couple of really solid interior like draft this year. Like if somehow Zion Johnson falls there, or they trade up for that Tyler Lindenbaum or Zion, I mean, they could easily flip this whole thing around really quickly. Because if they have a really good offensive line and they have that receiving core in Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon, that's going to be one of the best offenses in the league for years to come.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think you also there's a rookie, I think it's Boston College.
That's Zion Johnson.
Tackle, but if you're picking, they're gonna be picking 31, so he's a chance he's gonna be there. You can play right tackle or left tackle, so that is someone that definitely should consider. I think at minimum they need to sign 2 vets in free agency and draft 2 offensive linemen. Obviously you can't replace the whole offensive line. That's honestly kind of dumb in my opinion. But if they keep just 1 or maybe just 2 offensive linemen, build, get other players, other vets, some better players on the offensive line definitely will improve and help protect Joe Burrow. Because that moment Joe Burrow went down for a second, I thought he might have tore his ACL again. He was limping around.
Oh yeah, we all did. And then Matthew Stafford almost went down with his ankle. And speaking of the Rams are going to have to rebuild their offensive line. I would not be shocked if Whitworth retires. Dude's 40 years old, just won the Super Bowl. I could see him being like, all right, my time is up. I believe they have I think they have like 2 or 3 of their offensive linemen are going to be free agents, and they don't really have a ton of cap space because they spent it all. They spend it every year. So it's kind of like both of these teams may be revamping their offensive line coming in the offseason.
No, yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. Overall, what a great way to end the season. Now, before we go, definitely want to talk about some Jags football coaching hires. Obviously, Doug Peterson got hired as head coach. We already talked about that. But offensive coordinator Press Taylor, the younger brother of Zach Taylor from the Bengals, he won't be calling plays. It's going to be Doug Peterson, definitely someone young and that they can groom for the future. And nowadays, honestly, offensive coordinator, you really don't have to call plays. It's not like, back in the day, you had to pretty much call plays to get promoted. Now it's just, you're there. The past game coordinator, Jim Bob Cooter, best name out there. I mean, he might be the best hire of all time.
Best Duval name we could ever get. Like, I can imagine what some of the people are gonna like, just like have signs and shirts they're gonna make for him.
Absolutely. And then Mike McCoy, former Chargers head coach, actually been an offense coordinator in the league as a quarterbacks coach. He's actually very well respected as a quarterbacks coach. Worked, I believe, with Peyton Manning, if I'm not mistaken, with the Broncos.
He's worked with a ton of players.
And also Matthew Stafford up there in Detroit. So that's definitely going to help out Lawrence. I mean, a lot of these coaches they're bringing in, even for the defense side of the ball, they've all played in the league for a while. They've all at a high level, and they also have coached for a while in the league at a high level. So I definitely like that. I think, and a lot of it's younger coaches as well. So I think that's actually for a younger team like the Jaguars, it might actually be better for them because they're going to be able to, connect on their level. And then defensively, Mike Caldwell. He was a linebackers coach for the Bucks. He came over here. He also brought safeties coach Cody Grimm with him, so he's a safeties coach. We did get secondary coach Deshaun Townsend, who actually was originally going to go to the Vikings, but backed out to come to the Jaguars. And he's actually one of the better secondary coaches in the league. I mean, look at the players he's coached. You got, what's the safety from the Bears? I forget his name all the time.
Oh, there's a lot of them. Which one? Adrian Amos is like one of the guys that I think.
He coached him, but also Eddie Jackson, obviously.
Eddie Jackson, yeah.
He was also the rookie year over there in Cardinals when Patrick Peterson came out. So I mean,
he's done a lot. He's done Jenkins, not our Jenkins, the other Jenkins. He goes by Jack Rabbit. And like there's just you see there's a list of names, and you basically recognize every single one of them.
Yep, he's worked with young players to groom to get better. He's also worked with veterans, so I think him being able to do both is definitely going to help this team out. And for the defensive line, Brenston Buckner came from the Arizona Cardinals. And don't be surprised, a name to watch out is actually Chandler Jones. I mean, I know they get along very well, especially because he was a defensive line coach. But Chandler Jones is going to be a free agent. We need help on the pass rushing side, and we have the money. But most importantly, when he was younger, he said the team he grew up watching and wanted to play for was the Jacksonville Jaguars. So maybe if he doesn't want to chase the ring, maybe he wants to, come to the Jaguars, come to the team that he grew up watching. That would be actually pretty awesome. And I would love to have that with Josh Allen. What do you think about that pair?
Yeah, man, I've been harping that. I think ever since we got Buckner to come here, to me, it's like pay Chandler Jones, man. Like he's going to be, I think, turning 31.
Yeah, so he still has 3-4 years left in him.
He still has a couple of years. We have the cap space. Put Chandler Jones out there. Josh Allen finally is not getting double teamed every single play. You got Smoot, who actually he keeps getting better every year, man. Like ever since we drafted him, he's been one of the best. Like he was a 3rd round pick, but kind of like mid-round pick that we've had in a very long time. And he's just been nothing but consistent. I think if you have Smoot, Chandler Jones, and Josh Allen, and you still got the developmental guy with Jordan Smith, who's just like 6'6", like 260, and is like just as like his arms just like has one of the longest wingspans. You can have him just learn under a couple more years of Chandler Jones and Josh Allen, and you can actually have a serious pass rush. And we haven't had that in a while since Calais Campbell and Yannick Ngakoue and all them. So it's like maybe, and then you got Tyson Campbell, Griffin out on the corners. If you have that pass rush with those 2 corners out there, this defense could easily, because they were already kind of, Joe Cullen had them going pretty good, actually. This defense was keeping Jags in basically the game for most of the season. A couple, obviously the Patriots game, and a couple blew out near the end, but this run defense is already good. If you put Chandler Jones to help this pass, and you help the secondary with secondary only getting better with Andre Cisco now going to be probably the starting free safety. It's just, this defense could turn around very quickly with a player like Chandler Jones coming on this team.
No, absolutely. And speaking of Cisco, when you have Mike Caldwell, I wonder if he's going to use it in Whitworth. I think that's his the safety for the Bucks. What's the name?
There was Whitehead and then Winfield.
Winfield, because his dad played in the NFL, but he's kind of all over the field. I definitely think he might be able to play that type of role, Cisco. So I'm definitely excited for that. Cisco is definitely a ball hawk. He was in college, and when he finally started the last few games, he forced 2 fumbles, nearly got an interception against that Jet.
Yeah, he was all over it was just like, why wasn't, and he, the whole quote of him, like, why didn't you see the field? And he was like, I really don't know. I was healthy basically by week 2. And I kept hearing that I wasn't healthy apparently through week 8 or whatever. And he's like, that wasn't true. So all that Urban Meyer crap that finally we can put behind.
No, absolutely. And if we bring in Chandler Jones, once again, veteran leadership, I think is key. And, obviously you want to bring in good players, but also bringing in some veterans with how young our roster is actually going to help, I think, these younger players out. One thing I want to bring up, Calais Campbell said he's is going to play one more year. He is a free agent. And he always shouts out Jacksonville, talks about the Jags all the time.
Man.
Is he going to come back? Could he come back for one more year and then call it quits?
We'll see. I mean, it would be really hard for him not to ring chase. I don't think he never won a ring, right, in Arizona.
No, he went to the
they went to the Super Bowl, but they lost to the Steelers.
That was his rookie year, and then he also went to the NFC Championship game once, and the AFC.
Yeah, so he may want a ring chase to that last year. He could end up on the Rams. The Rams pretty much do that, like we talk every year. They always just bring in that guy for the 1-year deal. So. But man, I would love him to come here to Jacksonville. And like, even if we don't get Chandler Jones, Calais Campbell's still a beast, and he would help this defense. Like, I really do think this defense is like one solid, really Pro Bowl caliber, like defender, edge rusher, kind of pass rusher, defensive lineman away from being a really good defense. Like, when you really look at the pieces of it, the secondary is young and talented. Run defense is solid with Malcolm Brown, Hamilton, and Harris. Josh Allen is still good. He's not as consistent as we would like him, but I think if he has that guy on the edge like Calais or even Chandler Jones, Agba, Harold Landry, you name it, there's a lot of guys out there, and this draft class is loaded too. That edge rusher is a key part of this defense, and if we get someone like Jones, like any of those guys I named, I think this defense could possibly surprise a lot of people and all of a sudden be a top 10 defense next year.
No, yeah, absolutely. And then one other hire the Jaguars made was Heath Farrell. He actually might be my favorite hire so far besides Doug Peterson. Yeah. Phenomenal special teams coach for the Bills from 2019 to 2021. He was a Pro Bowler with the Vikings, also won a Super Bowl with the Seahawks. So he's very good at special teams. Was one of the better special teams players when he played. But the past 3 years with the Bills, they were a top 10 unit, if not mistaken, or top 12. And one thing the Jags struggled with last year is when we kicked the ball off, the team was getting the ball at the 40 because we cannot.
Special teams was terrible last year. And that was the whole thing. Urban was like, special teams, like we're all this free agent are hiring nothing but special teams, like players. It was like one of the worst special teams unit in the league.
No, yeah, absolutely. But great hire to snag him from the Buffalo Bills. I think he comes in and helps this special teams, right away get better. He's going to have a player like Jamal Agnew on the field. I mean, he's got to be excited about that. Someone that can take it a distance, anytime they kick the ball or receive the ball. So I'm definitely excited about that hire. But overall, I mean, I think so far there's still more, wide receiver coach, tight end coach, still some other positions. But overall, I think the Jags, for the most part, Doug Peterson has done a good job putting the team together, coaching side.
Yeah, you got to think like, man, he did all this in basically a week. It took Urban Meyer a month to pretty much get this. And he had he started in January.
Yeah, I think
Urban was starting in February. The fact that Doug has gotten one of the best coaching staffs in the league. We're not even talking about just Jaguars. In this coaching hire, there was, 8 coaches. Doug was one of the last ones. And people are giving Jaguars and Doug Peterson one of the best coaching grades going into the next year. And he's bringing a lot of optimism in my eyes. We still got the whole Trent Baalke. We don't have an EVP. What's going on with that situation? But at least Doug looks like he has complete control of his roster and the staff. And he seems like he's getting whatever he wants.
And that's something you didn't have with Philadelphia.
Sign is that he's getting whatever he wants. He looks like he's going to have complete control on who's playing. He has complete control of the staff. It would be a shocker. Maybe Baalke just gets the scouting, which, I mean, not really happy about that either. But at the end of the day, Doug's still going to have his input into probably who we're going to draft, because he's still going to be the guy. And I think Doug Peterson has easily been the best coaching hire we've had since maybe even Tom Coughlin when he was the first coach here. He might be the best coach we've had ever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And he's actually getting stay on his coaching staff, which is something obviously you follow the Eagles, and that's something that he didn't really have with the Eagles.
He didn't have barely any control with the Eagles.
So this actually, he gets control. I think that's definitely going to help him even better when he's already a good coach. But I think he already had it in place, like a lot of the coaches he wants to hire beforehand. I think he already taught the guys. That's why whenever he got this job, he saw these, he's probably going to become the defensive coordinator. He's going to become the offensive coordinator. He already taught these guys, and I think he already had them, pretty much in agreement. He just had to get the job, and once he did, it just kind of all flowed.
The only thing I am worried about is that there's a little bit of favoritism going on with his staff, just because basically everyone is either was a player with him on the Eagles or coached with him on the Eagles. Like, there's not many players on this team or coaches on this team that didn't have that. I think there's the offensive line guy from the Vikings is, I think, the only one who doesn't have a direct connection with the Eagles and Doug Peterson.
Yeah, and I do think we did keep our running back coach, which I'm cool with that.
He was fine. He got thrown in the fire with Urban. He deserved he got thrown on the bus for somehow he was the reason James Robinson wasn't playing, but they wouldn't allow him to say what he wanted to say and everything like that. Like, he deserves to be here. Was it Brian? Was it Palmy?
Yeah, Palmy. Yep, he's the one that's staying at from last year. I think,
and I'm fine with him staying. James Robinson, Travis Etienne, they've been working with him. They're two guys on this offense that are going to be very important going forward. And because James Robinson wasn't necessarily a high draft pick, but he's a Pro Bowl level guy. And then Travis Etienne was a high draft pick. So keep the guy that's here that's been working with him. Obviously, Etienne hasn't been doing too much, but he already has a relationship with him. And I think he's fine. I'm glad that he was the only one that stayed.
Actually, Cedric Scott, he's one of our strengthening coach. He's been here since 2012, so he's been through everything. So he's okay.
He's one of those untouchables. Somehow he just survives every regime change.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's a good thing. If you're surviving every regime change, you're obviously good at what you do.
No, yeah, absolutely. But overall, season's over, but we have about 3 weeks until people can get tagged, and then a month away basically for agency. So it's going to come up quick. We'll definitely have a lot of off-season videos coming out soon. Definitely hit that subscribe button. Also check us out on Twitter at 904more. And thanks for watching, and go Jags.
Go Jags.